Once again, we are back. Another episode of Speak Your Mind, the Paramedia portion of the Speak Your Mind show called Paramedia Activity with myself, Travis Short, and tonight's special guest is Timothy Lidard, aka Timberwolf. And we will get this show started right about now. Hey, what's happening, everybody? I hope everybody's having a great Monday evening. And here we are again, once again, for our Speak Your Mind Paramedia Activity show, hosted by myself, Derek Stroman, and my esteemed colleague from the Warrior Mode, Travis Short, but he
How
goes
we
by
doing, sir?
Macy's. What's up, brother? How are you, man?
Man, just winding down another Monday here, living the dream in the broadcast world.
Oh man, I know we had a busy weekend, but even before the weekend, though, what was last week like for you, bro? I know it seems like we're nonstop, but I know you had a pretty serious investigation that took place. I mean, I know it probably led into the weekend, but what was the
It
build up?
did. Well, we do. You and I go nonstop. I had my kids with me for about a week. They came down from Virginia, and my daughter, who occasionally will just kind of, it's almost like she's channeling Cheech and Chong because she talks like a hippie from the '70s. She's like, "Man, do your phones ever stop ringing?" I'm like, "No, they don't. They ring all the time. If it's not radio and clients and my team, then it's the consulting and Bill and working on projects. Working on things for Susan Bell and her film group out of LA and the Appalachian Arts and Entertainment Awards. It's just it's nonstop. And this weekend was a very interesting, busy weekend. Did something that we've not done here before,
Mhm.
and tourism here had asked me several months ago to try and find a way to make a paranormal investigation happen here in the area and try to start tapping into that audience, that demographic. A lot of people don't think about the paranormal enthusiasts as a tourism demographic, but they really are. They choose where they're going to go based on certain historical events and the possibility of finding supernatural and paranormal activity. You have places like Point Pleasant, West Virginia, that does the annual Mothman Festival. You've got a lot of places that do Bigfoot festivals. Roswell just had, their big UFO convention on the during the anniversary of the UFO crash, their Fourth of July weekend in 1947. So tourism here asked me, and I sit on one of the boards with tourism. They asked me to try to find a way to help bring some tourism, paranormal tourism, supernatural tourism, to southeastern Kentucky. And so one of the things that I did was I reached out to some very good friends of mine in Cincinnati, Lee and Patty Allen, and their paranormal investigation team, Paravisions, and they've clocked in over 5,000 paranormal investigations. They've been on Ghost Hunters. They are actually a member of the TAPS family. They've been on Ghost Nation. They've been on 2 episodes of A Haunting. I met them through Bill Bean, and I brought Lee and Patty and then Jim Wilson down, and we launched an investigation in a what used to be a state park. It's now owned by the city, but there is a reconstructed 1700 settlement there. And we did an investigation. There are 7 buildings, so we broke into 2 teams and we investigated all 7 buildings separately. And then we also investigated a cemetery that's a historic marker for a Native American massacre that took place there as Daniel Boone and the settlers were moving into this part of Kentucky in that westward migration.
Mhm.
This particular settlement had fallen asleep without setting a watch, setting guards around the perimeter, and they were attacked, and almost the entire group of settlers was killed. So
Mm.
we did an investigation there, and actually picked up some interesting things. I will say, when I booked this and scheduled this, and when we talk about stuff like this on Warrior Mode and on this show, uh, and I guess I would consider myself a open-minded skeptic. I don't think everywhere I look I'm going to see a ghost. I don't think every bump in the night is a demon. I don't think every light in the sky is an unidentified aerial phenomena. I don't think every ripple in Loch Ness. No offense, Kev Baker. I don't think it's the Loch Ness monster. But I'm open to those types of truths and those types of revelations, and that's one of the reasons I like Paravisions is you've got Lee and Patty, who both have had their own paranormal experiences separate and apart. And then you've got Jim, who's had his. Jim and Patty tend to be a little more skeptical than Lee. Lee's just very, very passionate and believes, and he believes. And if you when you listen to Lee's story, he's got an amazing, sad and yet uplifting story about his experiences with the paranormal. But their motto, their tagline that they use is Paravision's Paranormal Investigations. Always keep looking into the unknown.
Yes.
And I like that because that tells me it's always going to be unknown. We're not always going to know everything and learn everything and experience everything, but it's the journey.
Yeah.
So we picked up some EVPs, which were interesting. We picked up some. They use the SLS camera that they use on Xbox. So basically, you point that camera in an empty room, and you have someone that was in the room standing there, and you can see their outline as a stick figure, and then you have them leave, and then you start communicating and asking questions, and then you can see if a presence appears because it will create a stick figure as well. And what was really interesting is one of the buildings that we went into, all we did was open the laptop with software and the camera turned on, and there was immediately a stick figure where no one was standing. Uh, Though it was still light enough outside that you could tell there was no one there. Everyone was behind the investigation team. We were all behind them. There was a stick figure there, and it was very prominently a smaller stick figure, so a younger individual, a shorter individual. But that stick figure was there and interacted. At least then we started putting people in the same frame, and you could see it walk up to that person and then run away, and then walk up and then get close and kneel, and it just interact in a physical time type of way. And then we at the cemetery again, we picked up some EVPs. A couple people felt like they were touched. We asked if they were. We got an EVP, yes. We saw some shadow figures in the perimeter surrounding the cemetery. So all in all, for a one night investigation, something that I honestly did not think was going to find anything,
Hmm.
they picked up a few interesting little tidbits. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think they said that they were going to start the review of all of the video and audio that was recorded over the course of that evening. So, an interesting night, very long night. Got home about 4:30 yesterday morning. Got a couple hours sleep and back up and at it again. And then today was Monday, and it was a Monday.
Well, I have so many questions. I mean, and like you said, we're stemming off of our Warrior Mode show last night, where you did touch on what you're talking about now. But sometimes, you know how the show goes, we get so caught up in some other content. But
Yep.
you know, so first off, let's go back to what you said about um, you're not going to automatically just say that these things are, um, you know, demons or
Right.
the Loch Ness monster in the water. Um, you, doesn't that help help you and help us actually in the kind of people that we are actually confirm things that we truly believe in, like what happened in your investigation, or maybe not truly believe in, but we need proof. So we are true debunkers, would you not say? I mean, I mean, is that fair to say,
I,
or does a lot come with actually debunking something the
I,
proper
I
way?
think I think that's a fair assessment. I think what we, at least the way, and I speak for myself, and I've said this multiple times. People ask me, "Are you a paranormal investigator?" I'm not a paranormal investigator. I don't go out with all of the tech and the recorders and all of that. My even when doing the Mothman documentary, I was researching something. I was researching an event that took place in the town of Point Pleasant, and it expanded from there into the paranormal and the supernatural aspects of the story. Went there to Point Pleasant, not really expecting there to have been anything real. And then the more I talked to individuals, the more we interacted with the community, the more we did the research, the more that we experienced things there ourselves, we discovered that, yeah, something did happen. Now, people ask me all the time, what happened in Point Pleasant? I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't even born when those events took place. I was born 10 years later. The events took place between 66 and 67. I was born in 76. I don't know, but I can tell you what the eyewitnesses tell me. And the eyewitnesses tell me they saw something. And their reaction 30, 40, and now getting close to 55 years later tell me that they saw something real. Now, as we talked with Lon Strickler last night, was it a demon? Was it an alien? Was it a sentinel? Was it some type of protective entity? I don't know. But they saw something that impacted their lives in such a way that decades later they were still physically affected when talking about it. And that to me makes it very, very real.
But I think that just your how should I say this, Travis? So you hear me talk about what I'm about to say a lot.
Hmm.
This is what makes what we say and our involvement so important to the people who actually listen to us and watch our shows and believe in our input, so to speak, because they know exactly what you said. They know we're not the Lon Stricklers, the Stan Gordons. Heck, we're not even the Bill Beans.
No.
We're just guys that will do a proper analysis based on what we have without all of that high tech gear that you mentioned.
Hmm.
I mean, that's the only reason I can think people are even remotely entertained by our addition to a show like Warrior Mode, a show that's titled Paramedia Activity.
Hmm.
Where we're actually putting it out there that we want to hear what these people have to talk about, and maybe even go about getting them some help, some sort of help. So, I mean, I really, me. It's just we're going to do it. We're going to say these things. We're not going to just automatically say, "Oh my goodness, you're being attacked in such a tragic way." Well, why don't you just tell us what you're experiencing? You know?
Right. Well, I think it's very important to ask those types of questions, but not to ask open-ended questions, and not you don't ask leading questions.
Mhm.
Tell me what you experienced.
That's
Tell me what you saw. In your own words, explain to me what you feel like happened or you experienced or whatever. And what I love is on like on Warrior Mode, and I love both shows for different reasons. I love this show because we can really have open conversations a lot of times about some of the topics that we've covered on Warrior Mode, that because when you've got four co-hosts and a guest, you don't get to really always get in between some of the questions and answers. And there's a lot of stuff there that we would like to talk about. We just can't because we've got a window of time.
sure.
Poor Kev Baker's up until 3 o'clock in the morning Eastern time doing the show. But this show we get on, it's almost like we kind of get to rehash Warrior Mode and dissect it and talk about it. But what I
Yeah.
love about both shows, for example, for Warrior Mode, each of us, Kev, Bill, myself, and you, have had experiences in some form or fashion.
Yes.
Bill of course has his on a regular basis. Now as a spiritual warrior, an exorcist, a deliverance minister. Kev had his at Beluskin Manor. I had mine in Point Pleasant. You've had yours.
Yep.
But I even last year I took my daughter and her friends back to Point Pleasant. Now there were certain locations I didn't take them to because I know those locations could be dangerous, especially for my daughter, who is a very, very strong empath and a very, very um, caring, open person, and she would draw negativity. So there were a couple of places that I did not take them. But there were places I didn't. I didn't mind taking them to the Mothman Museum. I didn't mind taking them to the Riverwalk. I didn't mind taking them out to the TNT area. There were just a couple of specific locations. One of those being the former location of Lincoln State Mental Hospital, which is where I went, where I had my experiences and where I had a negative attachment that, as we've talked about before, caused me a great deal of heartache and trouble for many years until I had Bill help me take care of that. And Kevin has had his there at Beluskin. He had a similar experience. But that doesn't mean every time I walk into a house that I automatically assume it's haunted.
Right.
Nor do I automatically assume that there is demonic activity. I don't go looking for those things. Do those things occasionally pop up? Absolutely. And if they are, do I want to investigate and research and find out why? Absolutely. I love history. I love why things happen, when things happen, who do they happen to. All of those things are, I think, very, very important because at the end of the day, I'm a storyteller. In broadcasting, we tell stories. And from an advertising and PR standpoint, I tell stories. I write people's stories. I write speeches. I write press releases. I put media kits together. I help you tell your story. Documentary filmmaker. We're storytellers. That's what we do. So I like to tell those stories.
I mean, everything you've said, I could have just essentially just said about myself, and you speak for both of us. Why don't you? You know what I mean? I'm being.
You're
serious.
welcome.
Thank you. You saved me a little bit of breath there. Like just attach my name to it and send it in.
Yep.
All jokes aside, you're absolutely right. It makes me wonder, and I'm pretty sure it makes a lot of people out there wonder. And I will get to the chat room in a second. Here's a lot of people.
Because we've got some activity in the chat room. I see it, but
it makes me wonder, after all your experiences, how you still go right back out to these locations and still believe what you're saying, everything about, hey, I'm still not going to just assume these things right away. I'm going to go there. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it just makes me wonder, what is it within you that enables you to go visit these locations again, knowing what has happened to you in the past?
Well, and I've told people, and I've said this on Warrior Mode, and and we got into this conversation a little bit with Lon last night, and I had the conversation with Lee and Patty on Saturday. When we went to Point Pleasant and started that process, I had no idea that we were going to come into contact with a supernatural element that was going to be so devastating to our lives in different ways. Charlie McCracken, who was the director and my best friend, he had multiple health problems after we went to Point Pleasant. He ended up in the hospital about halfway through the film shoot. Doctors never could really get a firm diagnosis. All they could tell him was that he had all the symptoms of malaria, but he didn't have malaria. His organs started shutting down. He was in the hospital for a week, maybe even 2 weeks, if I remember correctly. And this would have been 2005, 2006, something like that. I had my problems. Matthew Fleming, my cousin, who was the producer with me, helped me do the research, helped me write the script. Mm-hmm. He had some health problems. His actually came about more recently than ours did. But and I'm not saying that his health problems were directly related to that. I'm trying to just show that we went in honestly to have fun. It was a hobby we wanted to do. So this is what we want to do. Charlie and I had just sold an advertising agency. He and I'd been the managing partner. He was the creative partner. We had a third partner and become very successful. We had about 115 clients in 15 states. I had just had my son and daughter, and I needed to take a break. We were working around the clock, and so we sold the agency, and then we immediately got bored. So we wanted to come up with something to do, and we had kept a lot of the production equipment, so we decided that we were going to start doing production work. So we actually started out doing a marketing film for a small Bible college in outside of Ashland, Kentucky, and it was there that we discovered that we were really close to Point Pleasant. So we went ahead and went up and loved the town and loved the people. And we were like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a documentary film, and we started doing it, and we really opened ourselves up. And me, in many ways, more so than the others, because of the other position that I had. We've talked about this on Warrior Mode and a little bit here. That at the time when we were doing that, I was also an ordained Southern Baptist pastor, and had a church, and was working in that particular field. And I think that did cause me to be more targeted than the other two individuals that were working with us, including Charlie and Matthew being those two individuals. But I'm very careful. This was, I went back to Point Pleasant with Leah to take her. That's what she wanted for her birthday. But honestly, this investigation this weekend was the first time I've really done anything in the field since we finished the documentary film in 2009. I haven't really gotten back out there. I've written about it. I've talked about it. I've done interviews about it, but I haven't really gotten back out there. And, you and I have talked about doing a sequel to the Mothman documentary film. And part of the reason that I haven't moved forward on that is there's part of me that's just a little bit apprehensive about going that direction. And I will tell you this, when that is done, it will not be done without the accompaniment of Bill Bean when we're in that area, just because of some of the things that I know that could still be there.
So real quick here, because I could just go on and on. I personally have a lot more questions for you about that recent investigation, and just that knack that you have to want to continue to go back to these locations. However, you do know how far in, how deep the
Yes.
rabbit hole essentially goes. So, a couple things going on here. Let's go ahead and bring in Tim Timberwolf Lidard. What's up, Tim?
Hey, how you guys doing? Nice to see you.
Hey,
Good.
man, good to see you.
Yeah, we I don't know. Were you able to hear part of the conversation, Tim?
Yes. I was
Good.
intrigued.
Good. Yeah, his oh my goodness. That experience, that last investigation was pretty serious. And I don't know, I think you came in probably midway as he was explaining, but we'll touch a little bit more on that. I do want to jump in the chat room real quick to show everybody love. This is a new show, so I want to make sure that we are acknowledging our new fans, and some are old or just kind of warrior mode people who've transitioned on over to the show. Our warrior mode, uh, I guess he wouldn't like if I call him the leader, but he does run the helm. He would be Jean-Luc Picard if it was he
Yes, he
controls.
would.
Kev Baker controls the ship over there. Okay, so
Yes, he does.
welcome to the show once again, Kev. Algorithm, what's going on? Thanks for all the love and appreciation for watching the show at this hour. Marty uh, Lauderdale and Jules. I'm not familiar with Jules, but it seems as though they all know each other. Again, probably transitioning over from Bill Beans and his team, us, the Warrior Mode crew over there, the Foresmen. And who else is in the chat room here? Big shouts out to Jay Roberts. I know it's getting late over there in Wales. He might be getting ready to lay it down. And I know for a fact that Kev is probably going to be um, uh, calling for the Sandman sometime soon as well.
Yep.
Again, just thanks everybody. I know you guys probably have a lot to talk to Travis about with that experience because, I'm going to go first here. So to have a team with you of people who are basically, it's almost like a camp of people that just want to go see if they can stumble on something, with some kind of paranormal presence, and you guys
Oh, yeah.
did it, and everybody just acts like it's nothing to it. I mean, what was the reaction? You make it seem so subtle.
Well, the reactions were a little mixed. There were a couple of total skeptics that by the end of the night were not total skeptics anymore. They were still skeptical, but they had seen and heard some things they couldn't explain. You had some people that when the stick figures were there with the SOS cameras, there were some people getting weirded out and freaked out, but they were also getting excited and intrigued. The part that really got everyone is when we were at the cemetery where the Native American massacre had taken place, and it's a very small cemetery. I mean, and it's not even really headstones; it's just rocks that have been assembled as headstones. And there's a small brick wall around it, and Patty Allen, Lee's wife, who was one of the investigators, they were inside the wall, and she jumped because something had touched her arm, and they had the recorder, and Lee asked, did you just touch Patty's arm? And then when we played the recording back, there was a distinct voice that said yes.
Wow.
And that was, but it was audible, and it was clear. It was no mistaking what you were hearing. But the part that really got people was surrounding the cemetery. It's actually, as I mentioned, it's part of a park, and there are walking trails that there's one that goes directly by the cemetery, and then there's some that shoot off into the woods for hiking and all of that. And on the other side of those trails, you've got street lights and things like that, because it's you're next to a road, and you're next to subdivisions and communities and things like that. The really freaky part for most people was, while we were there, and again, remember this Native American massacre, was seeing shadow figures appear on those trails and then disappear, and then appear closer, and then disappear, and then hear the sounds of footsteps running through the woods surrounding. And that's when people started getting freaked out, and that's when people wanted to leave and find
they did.
Find to get out of there. And of course, Lee, what Lee was doing a little bit of what Lon was cautioning against. He was antagonizing a little bit. And he was trying to find on YouTube. He was trying to find like Native American war chants to play and things like that. And that's when things started getting really active. And my response when that happened was, I'm like, Lee, what the hell are you doing? Will you stop antagonizing? But he was trying to see just how active he could get the location. But so that was when people started getting really freaked out. That was around that time. It was around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, when things really do start getting active. But I'm anxious to see the actual review on the photographs, the video, the EVPs, and the other things. But tourism asked, I delivered. They've got it. They want to try to do it a couple of times over the next several months, bring them back down. There's some other historic properties they want them to take a look at, and that's one of their areas of specialty, is doing that for historical societies. And the thing is, we did charge a small fee, but all of that money goes directly to the Preservation Society for each of these pieces of property. So no one made any money on it. It just goes to those locations for the use and allowing us to be there after hours.
I mean, how awesome is that? And I want to bring in Timberwolf here just to kind of, add some input to this. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here, Tim, but doesn't it just sound like, when you hear this story, doesn't it sound like a true embracing of the paranormal here? It doesn't seem like, anybody's shying away or running away. I think they found commune in the group, and it's from what I'm picking up. I mean, what do you think about this, Tim? Would you have taken that a little more serious, or would you have been kind of having a good time like it sounds like they had?
I would say, based upon Travis's experiences, because I was sitting here listening and learning, of some more of the experiences that Travis has been part of, as well as the stories that he has been privy to as well. To hear that it kind of makes me feel like both parties are aware of each other at a particular point. and both on, in the physical realm, our physical realm, and then maybe in the non-physical realm where they may be, or just on a different plane. But I think at a particular point there's kind of like this, if a spirit or a shadow person is not malevolent in any form or fashion, then they are either trying to communicate, or they're just trying to have fun with you, or uh, they're a playful spirit, something of that nature. But I think it's kind of interesting when certain things, like, one party plays off of another, and then the same thing happens. Whoever's in the spirit realm, plays something back to them, and so on and so forth. And instead of it being a yes, no, yes, there is a heaven, there's a hell kind of communication, it's always in riddle. If you see if you know what, understand what I mean. It always seems like there's some kind of riddle that we are meant to, to try and solve by one word answers, or when you ask, what is the afterlife like, they'll say confusing, or something of that nature. That's left to the imagination, or left to interpretation of any individual. And many individuals can interpret it of, multitude of different ways. I'm very interested to hear more of Travis's experiences out there, and maybe I can gain or gauge a better way to maybe to either interpret or understand.
It was perfect, because check it out, Travis. And I know you heard what he just said. That's exactly what Lon was talking about last night.
Yep.
About, you know, we got to stop looking at these entities like they're all bad. You're
Right.
talking about, right. We're talking about, kindred spirits, just, floating, entities that just are looking for solace, some place to rest. Is it really their fault? Is it their fault? I mean, what do you do with that kind of energy when you are the energy? When we have our vessel and we're in control of the matter stages, right? The physical
Right.
form, we're in control of it till that matter wears out, right? We become older, and all of a sudden, the matter stages of our lives, the physical form, can no longer exist. And then what happens? Then with energy, it's not going to dissipate, right? It's just not going to disappear. So now you're basically in limbo, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Your physical is going; it has to go, right? That's why they say everybody is going to die,
Hmm.
hypothetically speaking, because is it really death if it carries on? But yes, the physical form goes back from whence it came, right? The earth. You we but we have some sort of control and guidance of it. But what happens once that physical form is gone? And I just don't think that and it was just great how Lon was talking about it. And Tim, again, remember how I said that we get on this show, and I said this on Warrior Mode, that we fill these certain gaps that I'm always trying to connect the dots. Like, wow, and he wasn't even on the show, and he said exactly the same thing. So it's just I don't know, it's interesting to me. And he also covered your experience from how I was interpreting it, and everything he said was how I was looking at it as well. It's people. This guy Lee. I think, who was it that said that Lee? It was Algorithm said that LOL Lee sounds like kind of a badass. Because what he did
Yeah.
trying to crack fun. Is it safe to say, like I was saying last night, Trav? Is it safe to say that we just need to coexist with these entities?
Well, I think you look at there's obviously there's multiple examples of the way these entities come into our lives. Some are residual. They're that imprint that you're talking about, that energy imprint that's been left, and it's like they're stuck in a loop. They show up at certain times. It may be a season. It may be during holidays that were important to them. That's when those apparitions are seen. That's when that activity takes place. Well, that's just like a record getting stuck, or a CD skipping, or like I said, being, a stream that you're playing, just stopping and starting all back over and back
Stone
over and
tape.
back over.
That's what Kev was talking about. That's what he inboxes with. That
Yeah.
it's the stone tape, something
The stone
trapped.
tape that's trapped there. That energy is trapped. And then you have intelligent hauntings or intelligent sign where that there is interaction. Like Tim was saying, you can ask a question and you'll get answers. You don't get a conversation. It's not like you're sitting down and we're talking over coffee, but you do get those tidbits of pieces of information about people that have gone on. And then there's demonic presence. There are those spirits, those entities that are there to cause harm, to oppress and possess, and they can mimic the other types until they have gotten enough foothold on a person and a location to become more active. And then you've got, as we've talked about with on the Speak Your Mind show a couple of weeks ago, and we kind of got into it a little bit last night. Kev was touching on it. The idea of and Lon mentioned the trickster spirits, those Native American trickster spirits, the jinn,
Mhm.
from the Arab culture, the Middle Eastern culture, those things that inhabit items, and they cause mischief. They cause they play tricks, and they confuse, and they tease and they taunt, and it's those things that items disappear in your house and then they reappear, or you put something in one place and you put it there and you find it somewhere else. It's that type of thing. So I think there's a lot of and Lon mentioned last night, and we have to be aware of the fact that each of us have guardian angels and or spirit guides, and as he mentioned, most of us have two of those. Well, those are spiritual entities that are always around us,
Mhm.
and are always there, and we have to be able to differentiate what that is and what these other things are. And so I do think that it's not as easy as ghost, demon, good, bad. There are layers to it that we have to actually begin understanding.
Yeah, I appreciate that statement, and I'll let Tim jump in right there. I mean, how do you feel about that guardian angel theory there, Tim? Do you have a guardian angel watching over you?
Um, I I never really looked at it like that. I I mean, anything's possible. Like we've said in the past, the further on in time we get, the further along we go, the more things are possible. So I do not doubt that there is a possibility that there is somebody who's guiding me or watching over me in a different realm, from a different realm, and that
Mhm.
does occasionally steer us, but then leaves us to either our own intent, or leaves us to learn a lesson, a necessary lesson that helps us move on from this realm, perhaps. As each life, if you believe it, each life that we live here is that lesson, and then we come back again and again, and again there can be a different spirit guide each time. And I don't I mean, I've always kind of felt that there's a reincarnation, and along the way, like there's somebody who's watching you go round and around, and as they do this, they're trying to drop little hints here and there, little life lessons that, in the form of what people call deja vu moments, or
Mhm.
Yes.
those things like where you said jinn appear out of nowhere, but you don't see them, and all of a sudden that thing that you thought was sitting right there was not. You look away and then you look back again, and all of a sudden it's there, but you
Yes.
swear that it wasn't there. So there's jinn, and another aspect I wanted to talk what add to that was locally in the Americas, as far as Native Americans are concerned, the Kachinas. All the Kachina dolls that were created over the years, to represent different types of spirits or entities that
Hmm.
that people the Native Americans had either heard stories of, or had nightmares about, something of that nature. Because you have to figure, back in that time, without the influence of TV or movies, or authors who would write stories, or films that would show pictures of aliens, or some kind of crazy demon, it was left to the interpretation of a tribal people who didn't have exposure to modernization like that, and were raised themselves completely different. So their version of a scary dream or a boogeyman was interpreted completely different. And then you would get Kachina dolls, and a lot of them weren't necessarily bad guys, and you could see, by either the colors that they used or the adornments, the types of adornments, whether it be fur or feathers, along with the carvings of them, and then the dress. It basically, you got the interpretation of what it was, whether it was a demon, whether it was a watcher, whether it was the spirit of an animal, whether it was the spirit of a human who ascended. All the stories that come from the Native Americans. So, there is, like, from their perspective, that would be their boogeymen, their fairies, the trolls, the sprites that cause mischief, things of that nature.
Can I jump in real quick? Because I want you to carry on, but I'm actually going to try to do a little research on these dolls. How do you spell that? You said Kachina dolls? What kind of dolls? How do you spell that?
Yeah, Kachina. It's Native American dolls.
Let's see. Let's punch in Native American dolls. And just so you know, Travis, I am keeping mind of the time. Just for the audience out there, Travis has some other engagements that he's got to jump on soon here, so we won't have that long of a show. We apologize. We got started a little late. Next week.
That was also Travis's fault. You can go ahead and blame Travis for that. I had another issue. I was putting out a fire.
Hey, look. Hey, I know you've explained it. I just wanted the audience to know why it's going to be a little bit shorter of a show tonight. But I do want to research these dolls. But go ahead, what you were saying, Tim. Pardon the interruption.
We lost his audio.
Hold on. Let's see if we can get him back. Oh, he's muted.
He's muted. He's muted. Yep, I see. But while he's doing that, piggybacking on that, I do, even though I come, as I mentioned, from a Southern Baptist background and even Assembly of God, I worked in the churches in the Assembly of God for a couple of years as well. I do believe that the Native American Aboriginal belief system is probably one of the purest on the planet. Their belief in how the spirit world works is unpolluted by organized religious beliefs, which most of us do have a polluted version of. And that's how we operate day to day.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, exactly what he said, man. I want you to see this real quick. Look at this here. Let's bring, looks like we got Tim trying to get back in here. Sorry for some of the technical difficulties, y'all, but it is a new show. We're just trying to open it up, let everybody enjoy some of our ability.
And you're playing around with some new tech, and you're doing really good with it. It's working really well so far.
Well, thank you. I'm no Kev Baker, but I'm trying.
No, don't tell him that. Well, But we need to give a shout out to Kev. He's got some great shows this week that folks need to catch on Truth Frequency Radio, Kev Baker Show. He's got L.A. Marzulli Wednesday night. If you have never talked or watched a show with L.A. Marzulli, I know L.A. personally. He's an author. He was on the first season of Ancient Aliens. His particular theology and ideology didn't mesh up with Giorgio Tsoukalos and oh shoot, I just forgot his name. Eric Von Daniken. So he wasn't really brought back in after the first season, but excellent interview. The man has a wealth of knowledge about the Nephilim, the fallen angel technology, unidentified aerial phenomena, end time prophecy. I've been part of. I've done for him what I did with Bill. I've actually contributed to one of his books several years ago on Mothman. And then, of course, Friday is Kev Baker's birthday.
Yeah, we got to do something.
We got to do something. I don't know. We got to do something to embarrass him. I think we all need to get kilts, wear them, and have pictures taken with us in kilts. That's what and we send them to Kev.
Yeah,
that's what I think. I think that's what we need to do. Hey, I've got the legs to pull off a kilt. I'm just going to say it.
Bagpipes. I got to get a set of bagpipes. Hey, what percentage of Scottish are you there, Mister Tim
Um,
Lidard? What about you? Are you part Scottish?
I do have some Scotch Irish in me. I've got especially on my mother's side, I've got Fleming, Lockhart, and Macallan. So the very Scots Irish.
That's cool. Oh, Marty's laughing at you. Marty's having a good time. Hey, thank you so much. This is really fun. We love it. We love it, man. We brought Tim onto the show. We're just having a blast. But look, I want to look. These Kachina dolls are real, man. Look at this,
Well,
man.
yeah, I don't. Tim wouldn't bring them up if they weren't real.
Look at this right here, man. I want y'all to see this. So here they
I
are.
mean, I'm sorry. I was trying to bring something different to the conversation or add
your young
with that
imagination,
conversation.
and even as tools of reassurance in solemn times. However, in some cultures, dolls were given to the young as a tool of
Can you guys hear that?
to teach them about
Oh yeah.
subjects in a entertaining, personal, and creative way. Native Americans across North America have used dolls to teach the young about their ancestors and the ancestral
So
ways for
this is
centuries.
something different than like
These
voodoo
dolls are called
dolls. These are
kachinas.
just like
What
regular
you see here is
kid
a
dolls,
kachina doll,
toys.
one belonging to the Hopi tribe, a band of Native Americans living in northwestern
We're
Arizona.
I'm
Specifically,
not that familiar with the Kachina doll, Tim. Are these used as symbols? Are they used to ward off, protect? What would the purpose of the Kachina be?
They were handmade representations of anything and everything. Like I said,
Gotcha.
it from the essence of the spirit of an animal,
Hmm.
essence of an animal or a human being who lived prior, or something in the form like, again, they're taking the shape of a head, two arms, and legs, and in one form they're giving that to a child and giving it to them as a doll to play with, and it'll have like bright colors and things of that
Yeah.
nature, and they will
So
associate growing up with that particular doll, and then they'll introduce them to a different type of doll, a more adult doll, in the sense that this is where our spirituality comes into play, and these dolls represent our spirituality, and then these represent mischief. This
hmm
represents the heavens and sky. This represents the sun. They took things a bit more simpler, but a bit more pure.
right. Well, that's what I was saying. When you dropped off, I was telling Kev. I said, even though I came up through, Southern Baptist, and the Assembly of God Pentecostal organized religion, I personally believe that the Native American Aboriginal belief system is probably the purest, most undiluted on the planet, and their view, their experience with the spirit realm. So what these are basically anthropomorphic representations of non-physical elements, regardless whether they could be natural elements, they could be supernatural elements.
Mhm. You're mute again. You're mute again.
Sorry about that.
It's
Just
all right.
look at this particular picture right here. Imagine if you saw a physical representation of that in a human, like a human form,
Oh wow, I see what you're
Hmm.
saying. Hmm.
and if that was walking towards you. I mean, how would you, as a modern day person, take that? Be like, and this thing has this giant
Point.
head that is
Yep.
adorned the way it is, and its body is black with with white markings. Here, let me get my over 40s on here real quick. Just in the detail that goes into this. And its head looked that thick, and it had feathers sticking out of it. I mean, you wouldn't know how to take that, and you probably look at it as a monster or something of that
Yeah.
nature,
Hmm.
some type of alien being. But to a Native American, they'd be like, "Oh no, you don't have to worry about that. That's just the representation of the mountains."
Right.
Wow. Now that's a really, really good point. So you can possess one of these dolls if you worship it the wrong way is what you're saying. So they're dolls of worship. Is it something along those lines, or am I off
Not not
off track
necessarily.
there?
Not necessarily. They have been used in religious practice, or I'm sorry, I want to say more spiritual. I mean, they had a holy man, but I don't want to call it a religion
Hmm.
because I think that, like Travis said, it is the purest form of spiritual, belief, the purest form of living. They lived within their means. They lived what the land provided them. Uh, so, like like he said, with them being as pure as as they could possibly be, being a tribal peoples, um, their their how they view like spirituality is paramount. It's not about religion. It's not like they woke up on Sunday and went to church the way a lot of us had
Right.
grown up. Waking up on Sunday, you either you go to catechism, or actually you go to church directly after catechism too. For some of us,
Right.
So but it's more like a daily teaching of spirituality, and I don't think really that they weren't used to, they were used not to scare you in a way, to like, you don't want to come across this bad spirit.
Yeah.
This is how this is the spirit that I saw in my dream, and I made this physical representation of it. And they would use that to frighten all, to teach people lessons, and help them gain a better understanding of spirituality, and not necessarily a religion, because they didn't have religion thrust upon them until the white man cometh.
So it's kind of like you were saying about both of you actually when you mentioned the gens, which is more of a an eastern far east type thing. So chances of someone this far west are pretty slim of being attacked by a gen or having these issues. Kind of the same thing here. It's not the same style of religion. So it's in order
Anything,
to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Anything is possible. That's all.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
Okay, well, I just wanted to actually just do a little coverage of that. I had no until you said the word Kachina. I had no idea what a Kachina doll was, and they're beautiful. I mean, just look at some of these drawings and these images, just bright in color, and everything you said about them, Tim, is pretty cool actually to be made aware of the. I mean, look, I mean, how cool is that? And just these are handmade dolls here at a time where there was no machines and things of that nature where you can mass produce stuff. And I just think it's pretty awesome. And thank you for look at that. There's actual people dressed as them there, and
they were.
dressed.
If you think about it, they all of them were one-offs.
Mm-hmm.
They were what? I'm sorry.
They were one-offs. The term one-off, like it wasn't like they did it again, like you said, repetitively. Like they put out so many of these that looked the same. Each one was its own one. It wasn't replicated necessarily the same thing ever again.
I see what you're saying. Look at that there. So we could that's pretty cool, huh, Travis? I mean, we could really go on and on. I think we should definitely talk more about these dolls, and because think about it, they were the original settlers. They were the original, and this is our history. Whether we want to embrace it or not, I know a lot of people, would rather tell the stories of Christopher Columbus and all of them. So
let me interject real quick and go back to what Travis has said, man. Spoken of Jin, and because like tribal peoples, and they've been around like a long time on any continent, and the story of the Jin, like isn't just from solely based in the country of India or even Egypt or something of that nature. We've heard stories of the Jin as far east as Russia and the Ukraine, and they speak of them. They have their holy ways over there in Eastern Europe, but also they have their demonic side. They have their dark side of religion or spiritualism, and the Jinn are very, very popular in the Russian culture.
wow, I'm blown away. I had no idea we were going to get into this topic tonight, and like we talked about a little bit there, Mr. Timberwolf, we want to actually start catering these shows a little bit more around giving information as well, touching base on certain topics that we choose to talk about leading into the week. Of course, we're going to continue to reach our hands out and say, hey, here we are. And we definitely want more people to jump in and, like you've been doing, comment and let us know your situations. But we will, as you can see here, we'll do a little research. Listen. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm a little selfish right now because I'm ready. I feel like I'm in school and I want Tim to keep teaching.
Yep.
but out of respect for Travis's situation
Well,
here.
man, I can check out, and I would love to too as well. And that's one of the things, I learned a lot the last time that Tim was on,
Mm-hmm.
and I've learned even more tonight. And that's why, and just like with Warrior Mode, and that's what I love about these particular shows when we get here, is that we do end up learning. But I can bail out, and you guys can keep going. I've got to finish a couple of projects before I become a parrot head tomorrow night and go to Cincinnati to watch Jimmy Buffett. So that means I've got a short day tomorrow. So I've got a lot of stuff I've got to get resolved and taken care of so I can get out of here and get on the road.
Absolutely. So, with that being said, I'm not going to keep you much longer. I understand how important that is. You came into this show after a pretty hectic day there. So, we are going to let you get out of here. Much love to you.
You guys too, and let's pick back up, because I would love to continue this conversation, because I honestly think this conversation does play into that one interview that we did with the individual in Charleston. I think this is good information for what she might be experiencing.
Yep. And as you can see there, Helen just chimed in right before you're about to, uh, vacate for a little bit. Anyway, Travis, you got to go. Go ahead and do what you got
Good
to
night, Tim.
do.
Next week, sir. Looking forward to it. And Derek, I will talk to you soon. Love you guys. Have a great evening.
All right. Love you too, Travis. See you, brother. So, yeah, man, again, though, Tim, that was very insightful at a time where I don't think any of us were really ready for what you had um, to bring to the table tonight, as far as talking about these dolls, these Kachina dolls. And I mean, as soon as I punched it in, Native American dolls, boom, Kachina popped up. So I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Let's see here, Marty Lauderdale. Thanks, guys. This was fun. Okay. Yeah, we're not going to stay on too much longer. I'm not going to keep Tim either. I can see it's starting to get a little dark where he's at. So nightfall is coming quite rapidly. But um, but yeah, anything else you wanted to kind of cover before we get out of here about those Kachina dolls, or did you have anything else that you kind of wanted to, just bring into the discussion? Because I know, I didn't get a chance to ask you how things were and how your week and weekend have gone. So I didn't leave that out.
So, I mean, there isn't really anything else that I'm going to add, regarding the Kachina dolls. But the only reason, like part of the reason that I do know about them is having attended many Native American powwows over the years with my mom. My mom having a Cherokee heritage to her, and she's truly looking Native American, and yet I look like Scandinavian blonde Viking, and all that kind of stuff. She had very, very dark jet black hair.
Sure.
And extremely long black hair. So I mean, like she felt drawn to it. So we spent a lot of time in powwows, and I got to know Native American culture, pretty well. And there was a little bit of implementation of that in high school and whatnot. But if you just study, you go take your studies a little bit further, and you find out, in depth that their stories are deeper than like Travis was talking about, Native American like killing ground or something of that nature. That's what matters. And as he it would, I don't know if that was referring to the woman in Charleston or something of that nature. But that issue. One thing to think about is the fact that there's Native American burial ground all over the place. Anywhere that perhaps a Native American tribe might have been slain by white men, or there was a battle between tribes or something of that nature, a lot of times they buried them wherever they were.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, and they weren't necessarily marked, and that has happened many times, and not just in the Indian or a Native American culture. It's happened in many cultures. So in turn, a like you spoke of, a spirit that could be in limbo, or um, an, a very unhappy spirit because of how they died, or
Yeah.
because they are stuck, could be one of those kind of residuals that you speak of that latch itself upon somebody, and then they feel like that is like literally causing them either physical harm or causing them chaos in their life, or physical or emotional strife, whatever it may be. So, and I think that there's a strong possibility because Native Americans were so spiritual and so in touch with both Earth and also the spirit realm. I really think that their essence is often much stronger than the people who came here and have
Hmm.
thrived here, since like the 16 1700s, and started driving Native Americans on the reservations further and further and further, and taking over America. So I think there's a lot of you know um, perhaps disgruntled entities or spirits that that are basically, if you cross our path or if you walk into our sacred land, you're going to pay for it. And it's you've seen that in Egypt, you've seen that in Sumeria, you've seen it in all different places. If you open up a tomb, or if you cross either sacred land or a cemetery that you shouldn't have walked into, you're going to have bad luck, or you'll be dead in so many days. There's always been something in every
Yeah.
culture
Some
where
kind of lore, right? It's cultural lore.
so
No, I agree.
the lore has to exist either from some kind of story at some point that was truth, and not all of it being complete BS, or some kind of story that somebody cooked up just to scare or frighten children at their young age.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And yeah, I just want to acknowledge Helen Carr here. She says, "Well, I'm glad she tuned into the show here. She is somebody we are trying to help. I think I mentioned her situation to you a little bit, Tim, but she's going through something quite trying, and I apologize we haven't been able to get out there. Just been a busy time, and I'm sure she understands. She's listening right now, but she says, she flipped over and she's loving the show. So thank you,
I would
Helen.
if I was going to say, yeah, I would say to her, if she has exhausted other outlets and other sources, I would
Mhm,
say take up try chatting with a Native American shaman, or
mhm.
somebody in that realm, somebody of that spiritual um, standing, because that could be a solution. I don't want to say it is. I'm just saying, if you have exhausted other resources and other areas, and you haven't tried something else, try that area, and see if that pans out for you. It could not, but just in general, just good luck to you with it. And hopefully, one day get to meet with you and chat with you about it.
Yeah, I think I'd love to bring you along on that visit as well. So, how do you feel about the fact that she's related to Pocahontas? She says it's her 11th great aunt. And I know, Helen, that she's done a lot of very extensive research on her family history and where she's from. So, do you think there's any connection there?
So
Could
you said,
could there be attachments from that long ago?
so you said Pocahontas as a Native
Po-
American.
po- well, Pocahontas, she's saying in this message right here is her 11th great aunt. 11th
Wow.
great. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's
So it this is this is strange, because it feels like the dots are being connected, like you said before, like those moments when those dots are connecting.
that's what I
And
was
you said
telling
that
you.
last time we were online with doing this, and
Yes.
then this time you said when we start talking about things and dots start connecting, and they're
Yep.
connecting for me, and it just kind of feels like maybe that could be that's the path or direction to fixing a said problem,
Hmm.
possibly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Bro,
if he has that kind of lineage and ties to her,
hmm
I
hmm
mean, that is, I mean, I don't know. It almost speaks for itself, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what you listen. You know me. You've been around me long enough. Travis has been around me. These guys know that I pay attention in a certain way where I am connected and I keep a loop of continuity and I'm listening. It's not just a show. I'm on here clicking buttons and, you know, putting my face all over social media. I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm listening to what everybody's situations and conditions are. And there seems to be the feeling of these little divots after talking to you and coming from show to show. I see them and I hear them. And once again, you have no choice but to agree yourself. You see what's happening in some way, shape, or form is connected. And as a true investigator, detective, or just somebody who's inquisitive, you're trying to connect the dots in order to get a paint a picture, right? You get the puzzle, 3,000 pieces, 5,000 pieces, right? You know, people that collect puzzles, you can't complete the puzzle if you're missing one of those thousands of pieces, right? Same thing with these investigations, you know. So, but I just found it real interesting she never told me that. We've spoken. She's been on the Speak Your Mind show at TV Free Baltimore, and that wasn't mentioned. So it just again, proverbially, I know it's a motto and part of speech or just a saying, but how deep does the rabbit hole really go? You know.
Uh, yeah. How deep does it go? Maybe, perhaps. I mean, like, you may, like, if she had actually goes to talk to somebody, of Native American heritage, and is actually introduced to somebody who is a holy man, a holy woman, whoever it may be, they may give you something like a Kachina doll, or they may give you some kind of something to take with you as a means of warding off evil spirits. I mean, often that something like that is very, very effective. And it's not like gypsy lies and things of that nature. Because if anybody is in tune and in touch with the earth, it is the Native American peoples.
Yeah, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm fascinated um, by these dolls, these structures, these pieces. It's artwork. I mean, look, they're showing one from, just a piece of wood. Basically, it's phases
If
to
you
being
if you
completed.
that
You
running
know.
towards you in the dark, if you saw that running towards you in the dark, would you S your pants?
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many scary movies have you seen where they've depicted some kind of creature like this? I mean, it's been an
Right.
I've seen
Now now
I've seen
think
enough.
Right. Now think of the fact. Now think of, if you've never seen a movie before, you don't know what movies are, you don't know what movie monsters are, you don't know anything of that nature, because you've never learned about any kind of technology. You're
Right.
not, a technological advanced society. So that thing right there would probably be like the most terrifying entity or
Yes.
creature you've ever seen in your life, in a dream or in real, in physical form. And it would frighten you to almost to death, and make you tell stories, for the rest of your life about this thing that you saw. Just the same way that Native Americans have seen Sasquatch and seen Bigfoot, all, through, like, decades, or I'm sorry, centuries and centuries. The tribal people have seen Bigfoot for a long, long time.
Yeah, and I guess it wasn't nothing of concern, right? Because I'm still getting the feeling that this creature or these creatures are not out to harm humans. Now, I will say this: um, they will probably defend themselves, right? If they feel in danger or under attack. So that can be misconstrued, right, as one being violent. But is not always the case. Who threw the first stone? Who attacked first, and then it's always a blurry line to who started it, and everybody's well, he started it. No, he started it, right? And that's usually how that goes.
Yeah, it's funny. It's, who threw the first stone, and Sasquatch they're known to throw rocks into campsites and throw rocks at nighttime at people, from alternate locations. Like they keep on moving and they'll throw rocks from this way and that way. So that ties in with what you're saying, like who throws the first rock, and a lot of times it's them.
Yeah.
I've watched many documentaries on Sasquatch hunters where they'll have a camp
Produce.
set up, and then out of nowhere, like here comes some rocks, or like a large boulder comes like rolling into their camp.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so
And you
again,
know, go ahead. I'm
and it's
sorry.
no, and it's territorial.
Yeah, and it's territorial, and I don't know. You almost can't blame them if you're there. You're there first. You're the indigenous life forms, and then all of a sudden here comes some strangers, and it's trespassing. It's hey. I mean, you can. I mean, we all feel it. I mean, we have our houses here, right? You'll feel like that somebody's trespassing, and if they walk up on your porch, and hey, look, it's simple philosophy. It's easy. We try to overcomplicate everything all the time, So I think you're muted. You're
And
muted.
you've been there on the hunt. You've been on the hunt,
Hmm.
and like you've experienced that.
Yeah, I have, and I've seen something, and I don't know what it was. So I'm not going to run around like trying to give some pure detail of something that I barely saw. It could have been a reflection. I mean, I'm like Travis and others like us. We're going to do our best to debunk a situation. I'm not jumping the gun and screaming entities, spirits, ghosts, ghouls, and goblins. I'm not going to do it right away until I definitively can say this is what I saw. I can break it down, pretty much, like, the back of my hand. That's how well I seen this thing, or that's how much I was affected by these things, or whatever. So that's how I want to be able to convey a message. And when I do that, nobody's going to tell me that I didn't see this, hear this, or whatever experience that I encountered. So, and that's what a lot of people like Helen and people like her, they're telling people, and I think sometimes people are just not willing to accept how vivid and how real some of these interactions are. So I'm just not going to be the one to do it until I find out. I mean, it's as simple as that, and I might not find out, and life goes on. But hey, I'm not going to be the one to tell people. And you hear me if you watch our Warrior Mode show. I say this all the time. Everybody's not crazy. Everybody's not making up stories. Why do you want to be looked at as somebody crazy? Nobody wants. Yeah, I don't. I just if I'm just meeting you, Tim, I don't want you to think firsthand that you've already got me judged as a crazy person. You don't even get a we don't even get a chance to know each other. You know, I
There,
tell my
there's too
story.
many.
You're crazy.
Okay,
I'm crazy. Right? It's
there's
not
too
fair,
many
man.
people out there. There's too many people out there who have experienced something extremely strange that they can't explain. There's so many people out there that experience it that to call somebody crazy for seeing some kind of lizard human being, like some kind of humanoid that had reptilian skin, or seeing this it looked like a giant ape like creature, but it had no neck. It or seeing this craft in the sky. There's too many people and too many instances that have been documented and recorded now to just say that person didn't experience that, or isn't crazy. Like that's kind of in the direction that I've kind of moved forward in my life. That if somebody says I saw this thing in the water and I can't tell what it was, but it had scales and I've never seen anything like that before. And like I'll listen to them. I will
Hmm.
give them the benefit of the doubt, and this so I can ascertain from listening to their story thoroughly, whether and then decide, hey, could it be this, could it be that, could they have mistaken it for this or mistaken it for that. But I'm not just going to instantly say, hey, I don't believe that you saw a pterodactyl flying through the sky,
Hmm.
because even we've been seeing footage of
Oh
things
yeah.
in the sky that look like pterodactyls. There's
Ask
footage.
ask ask Lon, ask Stan. They're getting reports daily about. You'll probably have the pleasure of meeting, at least having a conversation with the likes of Stan Gordon, Lon Strickler, and others that they are true to life, bona fide, years and years, long before you and I both were born, researchers of what we're talking about, and they are getting calls on a daily basis of what you just mentioned, pterodactyl-like creatures, flying humanoids with obviously with wings and things of that nature. So these reports are coming in constantly, Tim. So I mean, these guys, like I said, they're documenters. They write books on it. Um, I don't know. They got more, probably forgot more stuff and research than than I'll speak for myself than I even remember to this day. So, um, yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm just acknowledging what you said. You're absolutely right. These there's reported sites. There's images, plenty of imagery of these kind of beings. So, and I would like for you, if we can do this for our next show, let's during this off period, let's come up with some things that maybe we can raise for the next show, and just keep putting good information out there, like what you did for me and the audience tonight in these Kachina dolls, which I think was very enlightening. And anybody that didn't get a chance to watch this live, they could always go back, review it, and get a little bit of information, and then do further research on their own time. So I just thought that was really cool. And I also wanted to just talk to Helen one more time. Um, she says, when she gets the messages from spirits, this is the way. She told the entity to go, and it's a warning, so that she doesn't care about the entity that harms her. It's running scared. So her story is really, really intense. She's got a host. We're trying to figure out what kind of, well, a creature that's using her as a host, and we're trying to figure out what kind of being that is. And she's had people, uh, premier people from all types of, I don't know what you want to say, factions that actually are proclaimed professionals in the business, that have went there to her household and tried to help help her with her situation. They're even doing a movie on her situation. So it's not a game, and it's it's got me boggled, because we've had her on the show. Travis has talked to her along with myself, Johnny Lang. Bill Bean has already been to her establishment. He's done what he can there, and these things are still going on. So it's quite interesting. And at some point here, hopefully not too much further down the road, I do want to do a little road trip up there, and just at least try to document a little bit. And it'd be good to have you with me, if we can coordinate this. Travis may or may not be able to make it. He's further away. Again, he's in London, Kentucky. So I know he really wants to get up there, but it's going to be more difficult for him than it would be for us, since we're right up the street from each other. So, again, I think it's worth a little trip. It's only West Virginia. It's not that bad of a travel. So we'll figure it out. So, you know.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
All right, cool. Well, I'm not going to keep you much longer. We're going to go ahead and, I guess, close this show out. You got anything for the audience out there? Just anything positive, encouraging, just moving on to our next show.
Looking forward to I don't know, like with these shows of coming up with like those individual topics. Like maybe we'll start doing like like our weekly topic will be on like in the beginning, like the first week of the month could be about cryptids, or the next one could be, and then the next week after that could be about ghosts, and one after that could be about the afterlife, like we discussed before. So possibly look forward to us, maybe like we were trying to focus like on one specific topic and get as much of that information as we can out, and then move on to into the next area where we all have a particular amount of information to divulge to the public and to each other. And it's all about the passing on of information. Whatever we can pass on to the public, and also like I'm looking forward to learning so much, as much as I can from you and from Travis and from the other from the other persons, like Bill Bean and the other guys. So and like I said, to be a sponge and to continue learning, that's all I want to do.
Yeah, that's great and well put. Marty Lauderdale says, thank you to myself and you, Tim, as well. Said it was a good show, 100%. And, I agree. And we just flow naturally with it. None of it's scripted. We just come in and wing it. But I agree with Tim. Um, we should try to, I don't know, focus a little bit more on the shows, try to get a little bit more information out there like we did um, this evening, and it's just you know it's just something that why waste the opportunity to enlighten, and again my own selfish needs. I'm guilty of that, and what Tim was able to provide for myself tonight because I didn't know about these Kachina dolls is I'm grateful, and it's almost like what anybody else would want. It's, you, Helen. I don't know who all that's watching the show or in the chat room even knew anything about these dolls, and maybe you, um, but I didn't. And to have enlightened people around me, it's just I can't lose. That's how I feel forming this team and creating these shows to where we all can do something positive. And I think everybody just wants to be able to do something good and finish on a good note, no matter what's going on in our lives. So I appreciate everybody out there once again for watching. And I don't know, Tim. Like I said, you said it very well, and I'm ready. Just let me know. We'll talk about it a little bit, and I'll gather all the information that we're going to need for our next show.
Okay.
Well,
All right. Look forward to
all
next
right,
time.
brother. Look forward to the next show. You have a good night. Be safe out there. Look, we started in the daytime, and then you turn into that silhouette of I know people. Oh, don't say it. Don't say it. You know what I'm going to say? Yes, he looks like Jesus right now.
No,
My
I
God.
thought you were going to comment on like cinematic lighting. The fact that I have light coming from one section here, and then over here it's the darkness. And when I turn my head, I create that
Yeah,
triangle right there.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, you got that whole long hair, long beard thing going. The image of what Jesus Christ was it looked like in as far as in some's interpretation. So it's fun, and like you said, the silhouette of the light, how it reflects, and let's let them look at this. Let's solo this image. There he is, guys. Tim Timberwolf Lidard, yes, and more than just somebody that looks quite like our Lord and Savior. He is also a wealth of knowledge, and he has so much more to deliver and display on our Speak Your Mind Paramedia Activity show. And it's just good to have him as an addition. And all right, I ain't gonna keep you guys up no longer. I'm gonna stop. Stroking you there. Hey, I can do that. You're my buddy. We can do this. We're allowed. We're allowed. All right. You guys always do it with. Hey, they always do it with me, and I appreciate every bit of it. I'm humble, and I thank everybody. So got to have some fun with it too while we're trying to battle the craziness and the madness out there. Right. So.
Correct.
All right. Good night, Tim. You have a great one. All right.
Good night, man. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Oops, I think I cut Tim off a little short there. My bad. Let's see here. We do have one more comment. Let's entertain this comment before we get out of here. Once again, it's Marty Lauderdale. Gotta say, that looked pretty cool of Tim. Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. I know you guys hear me joking around, trying to have some fun because I always like to end on a good note, positive. Everybody knows me, all that positive stuff. Yes, it has to be. That's what counters the negativity. I'm all about that. And unfortunately, you got to have all of it for it to coexist together, right? Or you will not have one without the other, right? So You know, I'm gonna err on the side of the positive flow and keep battling, and I'm really good at it. All right, so you want to challenge it? Come on, I'm ready for it. You know, and we can all use a little bit of it, right? So, all right, I guess that's it. This has been another great episode of Speak Your Mind, Paramedia Activity. I've had a nice group in the chat room, good audience this evening. However, the show must end, and let's bring in Tuesday. To all, have a great night.